this afternoon with just a little 3-minute clip, and it's going to just show you it's a little bit of visual for you to sort of hold in your brain about the. It's a little clip that the People's Health Trust used to launch their branch of Health Inequalities lottery last year. I'm Hazel Stuteley and I'm a health visitor by background. I watched this estate spiral out of control because of service cuts. I watched it push the self-destruct button in terms of violence. But most of all, the people were very, very ill on this estate. And as a health visitor, it felt like a bottomless pit of need that was getting worse.
It was actually a bad environment. There was no doubt about that.
But some parts of the estate were very run down. The council had let it fall into deprivation, really, but you started not admitting where you came from.
We never saw the estate as the problem. We never saw the residents or the community as such as the problem. We saw them as the solution. So that was our starting point. We knew that the strengths lay within the residents to be catalysts for change. I don't think they knew it, but we did.
Well, we started off by forming a Tenants and Residents Association, and we were fortunate enough in '97 to land £1.2 million worth of government capital challenge money to do the estate up ourselves, and that was the start of the Beacon Community Regeneration Partnership, and this made a tremendous effect on this estate. We were treating the causes of ill health, so we shouldn't have been surprised when boys' educational attainment went up 100% at SATS Key Stage 1, a direct connection with the fact that we brought postnatal depression down by over 60%. We thought we were doing up houses, but actually we did up lives, because that's what we're here for. We're to improve the quality of life for the residents of the estate.
If people start seeing that they're looked after, they will gradually, change. We're in a way trying to bring it back to the old days when community was together.
We feel great about living here. We're proud to live on this estate now. People queue to come on this estate, where before they queued to get off of it. I'm very delighted to have been asked to be a trustee for the People's Health Trust, because when I spoke to them, I detected they had an energy and a similar vision to my own, which is to rebrand health inequalities. Disadvantaged communities are full of amazing people with huge strength who have absolutely the ability to turn things around for themselves, but they do need support. This kind of project works. It's quite cheap, it's very effective, and it gives you results. Have you all watched Call the Midwife on a Sunday night? That's great. Well, I was that midwife on a bike cycling around London in the 60s, getting angry about health inequalities. And you know what, guys, 40 years on, I'm still angry. Health inequalities is just plain wrong. And that's what was happening there. No time to tell you the story, but what happened on Beacon was pure co-production. Have to say I'm not thrilled with the word. I actually like the title of your conference, All in It Together, but that's what it was. It was police, it was local authority, it was health, but most of all, it was working alongside the residents. It was the residents who were the strength there. And they've all been maintained. Lots of them have been improved on 15 years on, so it's not stopped. No time to tell you the story, but I just wanted to show you what transformation can look like. If I describe that estate, where I worked for 10 years of my life, as a sea of grey. I'm sure you all know estates like that, a sea of grey. What are the planners thinking of? Sorry, never mind. And that's what the homes look like. 4 years on, my middle son's a real surfer. He surfs the waves in Hawaii. But he said, Mum, because the colours on those blocks are really, really bright, you can't get the impression. But he said, Mum, did those people, were they on acid when they chose those colours? And I said, quite possibly, son. So, I have got a life, I promise, but I do get excited by things. And one of the things that excited me, I'm going to embarrass Jonothan, was when I met Jonothan in 2002, and he said, Hazel, I think what you did had something to do with complexity theory. I'm not an academic, guys, but I promise you the theoretical framework for transformative change is all in complexity theory, all right? I promise you that. And when I met Jonothan and met some guys from Exeter University, I knew we could replicate what had happened on Beacon. And that's what we've done. We've bottled Beacon. It's in a programme called C2, short for Connecting Communities. And we are bringing transformative change all over the country now, and that's very exciting. The other exciting moment for me is meeting Sir Harry Burns. Anybody know of Sir Harry Burns, CMO in Scotland? We work a lot, of course you do, Heather. We work a lot with Sir Harry up in Scotland, who has made that exciting link between communities having a sense of influence and control and health. Not being able to influence or have any control over your environment is seriously bad for your health. That's all I'll say. Okay, this little one very quickly. Never doubt that a small group of thought. I love this one. I know you won't ever labour under the delusion that it's a JSNA or it's a strategy or it's a whole raft of money or it's a boardroom full of people that's going to bring transformative change. Absolutely not. It's going to be half a dozen thoughtful, committed residents. That's not to say those things don't matter, but it's going to be people. Beacon was done on £35.50, and that was from a raffle that a resident had put together. It's all about a sense of coherence. Again, if you pick up these slides later, you can Google these things, but Google Sir Harry, Google Antonovsky, and learn a little bit about the importance of having a sense of coherence, about making sense of your life and your environment and the difference that makes to your health. And that's 9 mums and 23 children. So C2, Connecting Communities. So Beacon was 95 to 99. Hopefully somebody will ask me what's happening there now. Well, it's absolutely going strong, and so are all the other. What we set up there was a model of neighbourhood governance led by residents but supported by statutory agencies and service providers. They meet on a monthly basis. Their acronym is BCRAP. We've got lots of brilliant ones. We've got a SWAN, we've got a TCP. Actually, I was a bit worried. Teignmouth West, they were going to call themselves Teignmouth West Action Team, but I said, don't do it. People remember those things. They meet on a monthly basis, guys, and they do stuff. Do you ever belong to partnerships that don't do diddly squat? They do stuff on a forward trajectory, and the result is transformation. So what C2, we worked for 2 years with Exeter to research basically what were the key success factors there and how we could replicate it. And it's in a 7-step model now. It sounds so easy, doesn't it? Just bring the people that live in an area together with the people that work in an area, and it is. Why don't we all do it? I don't know. We connect communities within themselves, with the local service providers and with other communities. And I've just got a few pictures to show you that. This is probably the most, it's a boring looking slide, but it's probably the most in terms of learning that you need. There is 2 years research said that what we did, and the joy for me, the speakers that are going to follow me, we're all saying the same things, guys, aren't we? It's about the co-creation of a receptive context for transformative change. In other words, it's how you create the enabling conditions for residents to lead change for themselves. And I've just put the ones that are most important in red, because it's about making new relationships, it's about listening, well, it's about all of those things, but the ones in red are the most important in our book. And that's what the programme is all about. In case you think, in case you say, well, we do listen to our people, we do all this, there's nothing new in this. We've learnt by doing over the years. This is a textbook full of fine detail. I've got Heather here. Heather knows, and Kerry. I laughingly call them my C2 apprentices because I'm not Lady Sugar, but you're going because this is really taking off, and it can't just be me doing it anymore. We've got what we call C2 apprentices, facilitators all over the country now, and it's the fine detail, Heather, and it's all in. I had to download my head last year. This is what it looks like. The 7 steps of C2 start with people gathering. So it's about the same group of people going through the same process together. We've got residents, we've got police, we've got local authority, we've got elected members. Then we get them to commit to listening to the community. So we listen in a very special way, and it's all of us listening together. We use a postcard system, and we ask the residents to take a picture of somewhere that means a lot to them. This was in Wandsworth, this is a picture of the only meeting place that the residents had. So we did a listening event. We didn't have anywhere to meet, so we used the marquee. Wandsworth weren't happy. They planted a tree to try and stop us putting our tent up. Lots and lots of people came. It was really good. And guess what? After it, top of the listening event, top of the things that people wanted, they wanted their hall back. And the people are now running the Newlands Hall for themselves. And it's just amazing. You see, honestly, if you know how to listen to a community, they will always tell you what they need to heal them. A very simple thing to do. Communities that are going down in the C2 7-step programme, we take them to communities that have been transformed. So simple. It doesn't matter about difference, ethnicity. This was Falmouth in Cornwall and New Cross Gate. So it was like jerk chicken meets Cornish pasty. The culture doesn't make diddly squat difference. The peer learning and the energy, and when you do that, the poor communities that are struggling to get themselves together say, if those guys can do it, so can we. It's that simple and that powerful. Right, I'm just going to run you through. This is about co-production. This is the creativity now of what happens when you meet on a regular basis, when you all sit round a table together and you solve problems for families. This was in Redruth in Cornwall. Massive problem in the school holidays with really antisocial behaviour from young people bored to tears. It was a voluntary young people's curfew. I promise you it wasn't punitive, but I can't tell you all the detail in it. It was a community asking irresponsible parents to take control of their children. It cost £500. Green Fingers, this was aimed at getting young people not in education or employment back into full-time education or employment by offering NVQ in horticulture. The carrot for this, if you like, Cornwall College were able to offer them free driving lessons. What I want you to get a sense of with these, it's a win-win for everybody. Operation Goodnight was a win for the police and the community because everything stopped, and it's stopped since. Important to say, guys, this isn't about projects. This is about a culture shift. They've never needed to do Operation Goodnight since 2008 because it changed the way that community thought about themselves and the way they thought about their families and their children. And it's been the same with Green Fingers. Green Fingers has now become a company, and Redruth North Partnership is autonomous. This is about neighbourhoods self-managing, isn't it? It's not about neighbourhoods being managed. Okay, transformation, just so as you get a sense of this is over in Townsville, that was how it looked before. The partnership got 95k's worth of funding for a play park, and that's transformed this estate in Dartmouth. Just the power of listening. One of the very first teams to do C2 was a neighbourhood beat team in Camborne in 2004. They did a listening event and the young people said, we want to dance. It's named after their postcode, the TR14ers. Okay, it started with an exchange visit in Eden. That's where they caught the vision that they could bring change for themselves. 8 years on, over 1,000 young people have been through TR14ers. The kids ran it for themselves. It was led by the police. They've exited now, and it's the young people run it with some support for themselves. Amazing dancers they've become. But look at the healing that it's brought. 35% increase in educational attainment. It's impacted on the whole community, and that was just by listening to the people. And Jonothan and I, we took 100 up to NHS Live in 2008. They blew the place away. And I always think Sergeant Dave, he looks like the angel Gabriel there, doesn't he? But he's written a book. He's out in the Council of Europe championing young people's rights. So it transforms people as well. And last year they did a Royal Gala performance, a Royal Command performance, hosted by Sir Tim Rice. And they got the equivalent of MBE last year. That is my final slide. Guys, this is important. If we use what we have what you need. This is not about money. Everything you need to transform anywhere is already there. Thank you very much.
Hazel does how to do it. I interject occasionally about why it works and theorise a little bit. very subtly, as you go through the steps in connecting communities, there's a very, very small change of the relationship. And it's this change of the relationship that seems to be the key. To explain a little bit more, as a GP and trained at least 30 years ago, we knew we had all the knowledge, and we sat at one side of the desk and we imparted our knowledge to the other side. And over the next 10 years, I suddenly realised, in fact, there might be other ways of doing this. So there was a subtle change of where the desk was and everything else. And we began to work together and to co-create solutions. So what in fact was happening here, we started off being face to face, but particularly with long-term conditions, you actually then more like side by side. So you're together experiencing the many years of difficulty you may have with long-term conditions. So there was a subtle change of relationship. And once I realised that was okay, I mean, losing power is actually okay, you suddenly begin to think, yeah. And actually, the last third of my career was actually so much more enjoyable. But it's a hard idea to put across. Scaling that up, which is not the term. If we think of organisations, public sectors, or communities as systems, the traditional way of looking at those is very mechanistic, hierarchical. The people at the top know what needs to be done. They issue strategies and usually guidelines and then set targets, which we strive very, very hard to meet. Sometimes just come in under the bar and just work a little bit harder. And I think the best analogy of that is a sort of fridge. It's not quite at the right temperature, a little bit of work is done, it comes up to speed. That's what you call transactional change, and this is the sort of world of mechanics where you try and understand things in smaller and smaller detail and get more and more data. There's another way of looking at systems, and that is where the agents are humans, and humans have conversations, and they're forever changing. And this is the world of what we call complex adaptive systems. And this is the sort of the understanding that we get from complexity. And in that particular world, people have conversations, have ideas, patterns emerge, patterns of behaviour emerge. And sometimes if you respond to a particular issue, and in the Beacon Estate in Falmouth, the little issue which was addressed very quickly was actually dog mess. They found about 100 quid, put some more dog bins up, and all of a sudden, the community said, we did that. And you begin, instead of being in the negative feedback loops in the mechanistic world, you're into positive feedback loops. And it's very, very, very quickly, you suddenly get on the front foot. And that was really the beginning of the journey that ended up with all the flowers in the gardens. Because when they started in Falmouth, there weren't flowers in every garden. In fact, there was rubbish in every garden. And there was a complete turnaround. But it wasn't in the strategic document that everybody should have nice gardens. This is unpredictable and difficult. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that one has to inhabit only the mechanistic world or only the complex adaptive system world. Basically, it's being able to understand both and when to use both skills. Through the steps in C2, there is something about having new eyes to actually begin to look at the world as if it is a complex adaptive system, to value the importance of the relationships. If you say, well, I've got A and I've got B, what's the most important bit? It actually is the bit in the middle, it's the bond, it's the relationship. So think relationship, think interfaces. Now, Samuel Adams was famous for three things in my book. One is I think he helped to draft the Constitution of the United States. Secondly, he invented the first microbrewery. And thirdly, he sort of actually understood how to begin to create a context in which things can flourish. And that is that it's everybody's responsibility in having conversations, whatever level one is within organisations, to start these brush fires in people's minds. This is a summary slide of really the two ways of looking at systems. And I'll just last 2 points really. The mechanistic world tends to work on negative feedback, and there's a power differential. In the complex adaptive system, it's more, we value the quick wins, what a colleague of ours called Trojan mice. They're really, really important to spot them and act on them quickly, early, and that starts your different trajectory. Now, he's a bit of a hero of mine, and the phrase that I snitched from him, he actually wrote in the 1970s about changing from face to face to side by side. That is from Julian Tudor Hart. He was advocating general practice to have more of a community focus in the 1970s, and we didn't listen to him. Now, there's nothing new about knowledge transfer between Devon and Cornwall and Wales. This was world-beating technology of a pressurised steam engine on rails, first time in the world. Sadly, Trevithick died in penury in Deptford a few years later. I suppose linking those two last points is we sort of know quite a lot about this stuff. And I think in this time of scarce resource and a shortage of funding, this is an intervention which costs little but can actually make a big difference to people's lives. And I think we should do it now. Thank you. It is very difficult to lead transformational change from outside the system.
Impossible.
So, from inside the system, great things can happen. But again, that's a challenge for frontline staff.